Hello and welcome back to The Lobby, GameSpot's weekly chat show every 2 p.m. Pacific right here on GameSpot.com and available on demand on the YouTubes and GameSpot. I'm your host, Danny O'Dwyer. Do you know how worried we were about this week's show? There's like nothing happening in January, so it's a good thing that a bunch of people decided to leave their jobs. I'm so happy to say hello to previously from IGN, Mr. Greg Miller.
Hey, how you doing?
Kind of funny.
Kind of funny now, everybody. Please support us. We have no jobs.
Greg's funny and I'm like not that funny, so in
we
the
even
middle,
okay, you're kind of.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah, yeah.
Colin Moriarty, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
And rounding out this man-witch we have on the couch this week, Mr. Chris Waters.
Hey, Danny.
How you doing, buddy?
I still have a job here.
I was going to say, you quit and you're coming with us?
I have not
Come
done
on,
that.
games
No.
media, it's over! The dinosaur is dead! Long live the phoenix!
Yeah, how do you think we feel when like IGN's like we got the other two sitting over there just tweeting about stuff.
Producer slash
Just doing-
producer
look
Nick
at the face.
Scarpino. The pure one, Tim Geddes.
It's the dick.
There
Look at
they
the-
are.
yeah.
Oh, look at you! Look at that photo! Nick, look at you!
And Ty.
Ty and Dave Clayman, oh my
amazing.
god, that is
Baradon.
awesome.
Man, Ty Root used to look young. That's
I
impressive.
remember that day
Oh my
very
God.
well. That was 2008, Nick. 2008.
What does it say if you guys are leaving? Like, come on, what about the Enthusiast Games Press?
Yeah.
What are you trying to say here?
It was time for us to go. That's
Okay.
what we're trying to say. You
How
know what I
many-
mean?
how many-
There's no overarching statement. IGN gave us both 8 great years. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And we'd been there and we had grown there in, in immeasurable ways. Yeah. And, it was time to try something different. Yeah, exactly. In the gut for sure. Team fat for life. It was a great run. It was a great ride. And just towards the end, once we really got started doing our own YouTube stuff with Kind of Funny, that started to pull us in a certain direction, and we didn't want to fight that anymore.
Yeah. So you had Game Over Greggy, your YouTube channel,
Right.
forever. You guys did that sort of rebranding at some stage last year.
September. Yeah, it's hard to say. It's weird to say last year, right?
Yeah.
Because it seems like not long ago. But in September, dialing it back even further, like 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago, launched Game Over Greggy, my own YouTube channel, where I was reviewing Oreos and talking to Colin. And it started, I came back from this thing called VidCon, which is basically GDC for YouTubers. You go there, you learn what YouTube is all about. And I remember IGN sending me there because I was doing Up at Noon, and like, it's a YouTube show, so you should go and learn about YouTube. I'm like, I know YouTube. And you get to this thing and you're like, I didn't know anything about YouTube. I didn't know anything about what this thing was and how popular it is and how it works and how it's a game in itself. That's really what draws me to it, right? You put up a video and it does that number and you're like, well, if I tweaked the headline or I did this with the thumbnail, how can I make that better next time?
Get
How
them mad clicks.
Exactly, mad clicks, but also, serve the audience we were building. But at the time, it was more like, screw around and do stuff. And I came back and I told Colin, let's do a show together. He's like, nobody's gonna want to watch me talk about stuff. And I'm like, no, they will. You say crazy things. And then Nick and Tim, I was like, Nick, come help me film. I don't know how to work cameras. And he's like, all right. And I'm gonna grab Tim because he understands YouTube. I'm like, great. And they wouldn't accept money. They accepted pizza in the beginning. Colin and I were so excited when we got the first $125 check from YouTube. Like, oh man.
So like 3 months of
exactly.
shows.
Lots of Google AdSense
Yeah, oh my
went into
God.
that.
Yeah.
And so we did that for a long time. And the more we did it, the more fun it became, and the more it was like this outlet, both creatively, for us to get out there and do different things, and then for us to connect with this, audience that we had through Podcast Beyond, Up at Noon, IGN, but bring them into a different direction, do something, cool with them. And it was a wonderful ride, and we really, really got invested, and everybody started taking it seriously. And that's why in September, we decided to rebrand as Kind of Funny, because it was weird, for Nick to go out at things and be like, yeah, I work on this YouTube channel. And they're like, oh, what's it called?
Yeah.
He's like, Game Over Greggy? And they're like, well, are you Greg? And he's like, no, you know what I mean? That was a weird thing for people to wrap their heads around. So we rebranded to be more diverse and start building a product that, one day, knock on wood, if we don't go anywhere, we can still let go. Like, we can step back from. One day, when you want to leave, you can come work at Kind of Funny. And then
I need a green card. Can we get married?
Yeah, actually,
right?
soon enough, I'm sure that'll
Great.
happen too, by the time we cross that bridge.
No, I think I'm going to be sticking around here for a while.
No, I was joking around. Yeah, you got a great gig here, don't worry. And so...
You see this chair? I wanted this chair.
Trust
and they got
me,
me
as
this
somebody
set.
who films in a spare bedroom, your set's very nice.
So when was it that you guys were like taking it seriously, thinking, you know what, all right, we're going to be done with what we're in our current jobs? Like, was it back in September? Presumably, it must have been like way further back than that. That at least it was an option.
Yeah, I mean, we started talking about it last year,
Yeah.
and the four of us, and we had a weekly kind of standing lunch where we would just talk about, our business and what we were doing, and it was a side business, and we were exhausted all the time because we were always filming at nights. And when we decided, it was at VidCon last year, when in Anaheim, where we kind of decided, like, let's explore our various options about how we can fund something like this. And we stumbled upon Patreon, which I think is a really awesome option, because I've been very outspoken against Kickstarter in the past, and I had a lot of concerns about us going directly to the users to be like, do you want to fund this thing? And then I realized in talking to the guys and researching it and stuff, I'm like, it's just a subscription model. It's instant gratification. It's Netflix. It's Amazon Prime. And I'm like, I'm comfortable with that. And so let's move ahead. So we actually launched Kind of Funny's original Patreon in September when I was in Tokyo at Tokyo Game Show. And we thought we'd get a few $1,000s, and it would be nice. We'd maybe buy a new camera in a few months. And we were astounded. We got $10,000, I think, in one day.
Yeah.
And we were astounded by that, and also nervous about that, because it was like that made us start to make a series of choices that we inevitably had to make.
Yeah.
And then come October, I went home to Long Island to see my family. I was on the phone with these guys every day. Eventually, at New York Comic Con, around that time, we decided we were gonna leave.
And now you guys are set between the initial Patreon and this new one for the gaming aspect of Kind of Funny. You're sitting at, it's about 28,000. Like, a lot of people are saying, like, that's kind of a lot of money. Like, that's insane to be getting that much. But Bay Area rent on its own is pretty insane. Like, what is the reality of having the four of you guys existing on a month by month with that type of income?
Well, we're about to find out. I mean, it's definitely pay cuts from what we were doing at IGN, right? And it's one of those things we talked about for the longest time is, it's high risk, it's high reward. Is the fact that we knew leaving, we would take that step back. And we have multiple revenue streams. So it's not just the Patreon numbers to look at. We have, obviously, YouTube AdSense on top of, we sell shirts like this one here. districtlines.com/kindoffunny. And there's all these different angles to, we sell the podcast early even if you don't want to do it. Now we're doing Twitch, we have that. It's good. It looks like it's good. We're ahead of our projections, right? Because the biggest thing for us is, for the longest time before October, we would talk about what's everybody's number to leave. You know what I mean? Like, what would we have to make? And when you start talking like that, it's so far flung on when we'd actually make enough money to leave and do this on our own. And what was the changer for us was Patreon. Not because Patreon gave us enough to live, but it started bringing that number up. So that, like, as we get going and we do gain YouTube subscribers and we do gain podcast traction, then you can start selling ads and do this. The Patreon number can stay where it is. We can make money on the other side and then get back to where we need to be, where we want to be. And so it quickly became not what's the number we need to leave, but like, what could the number be if we left? Right. Because what I always talk about is the fact that, up until 2 days ago, before we announced, we had 80,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel. Every video did about 25,000 views. And then on Patreon, we had 1,800 subscribers. And so you can see it real quick start paring down to, like, who your hardcore people are. And if you're looking at either that 1,800 or you're looking at that 80,000, these are people who were showing up to enjoy our content, totally not getting what they wanted. Colin and Greg, our passion is video games. Everybody knows
Presumably
that
you weren't allowed to touch the stuff when you were working at IGN.
Exactly. I mean, and I've talked about this on our show yesterday and a whole bunch of other ones, right? Like, IGN's been fantastic. You know what I mean? When I came to them and was like, I want to launch a YouTube channel, they're like, well, technically that's a conflict. You know what I mean? You're a host and you're a public personality for us, but we want to let you do this. We want you to be happy, but you can't talk about games. And then we talked about this gray area of movies and TV and comics, right? Because IGN covers all that. And so the gray area we seemed to be happy with was like, all right, we're going to talk about movies and comics and stuff, but not in a way IGN would want, right? Like, we'll talk about, like, what's the best movie car or whatever, or something like that, or like, some Breakfast Club memory, something you wouldn't see on IGN on a daily basis. And that was fine, but then we started butting up against that wall of like, well, now we have this audience that loves us and is rabid, and we want to serve them. That's what this keeps coming back to. Like, on Beyond, I've always said, if you listen to that show, you're our best friend. Like, you understand that. And I say that on Game Over Greg show, and I say that on all of our properties because it's true. By listening to us, by coming in, I get the relationship I have with the viewer, with the podcast listener, right? Because, like, the whole point of the show and why it works is because we're all friends. And so you're the fifth friend, you're the fourth friend of what show you're listening to. And so we want to give them what they want. We want to serve them in the way they want to be served.
So speaking of Podcast Beyond, presumably that's still on IGN?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is that, Podcast Beyond is near and dear to us.
Yeah, you guys built it, but like you were saying before, like you've been on since episode 1, like
and episode 98. Yeah, and we just did episode 376. And
Live right now on IGN.com.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah,
How does that work?
So
We're freelance now.
Yeah, okay. So now we freelance it. I mean, the Podcast Beyond is something that's near and dear to us. Like we really love that podcast and we love that brand and we built it into something. And I think that it's it's up there in popularity with on iTunes all the time with Weekend Confirmed and Bombcast and all these great podcasts. And we're really proud of it. It's easily the biggest PlayStation podcast in the world. And it's sad that we are eventually going to have to say goodbye to it. We tried many different ways to be able to continue to do the podcast, and this was the one way that we can continue to do it for an indefinite amount of time.
Yeah.
But that podcast, much like IGN, is very near and dear to us. I mean, IGN, I'm 30 years old now, and I was 18 when I'm about to start college when they contacted me as a GameFAQs kid to start writing for them.
Yeah, GameFAQs.
Yeah, GameFAQs. And I love GameFAQs. I owe a great deal to that website, and I've been connected to IGN intimately as a freelancer and then as an intern, and then when I graduated college, they offered me a job, and I owe them everything. We owe them everything, and we understand that. So there's going to be little things with Podcast and Beyond and IGN where we're always going to be intrinsically connected to this website, and we're totally fine with it and this product. The thing is that IGN will obviously live on without us, and in a couple of years, no one will care that we're gone. If not sooner, maybe they don't even care right now. And
Nonsense.
This Max Scoville kid's perfect.
And you're gonna have people shouting Beyond at you in the street for like 5 years from now.
I
when
hope
we're
so.
in the street begging for change.
I hope so.
When it turns out this is a huge mistake.
I hope
What's
so.
wrong with that man, Papa? Oh, back in the day, the enthusiast press was.
I tell you what, they never gave PlayStation All-Stars enough credit card.
Yeah, they didn't. But and we're always going to be attached to IGN. We owe them everything. So we want to be really clear about that too. That there's no bad blood. In fact, there's great blood. Like we decided we were going to leave and told them a long time ago, and they've been really great to us. Fran and Per and Tal have been nothing short of really awesome to us. But we have to say goodbye to that brand, and we have to say have to say goodbye to IGN. We have to say goodbye to Podcast Beyond. Eventually, it'll live on. I feel like we will always be the spirit of that show, and I don't think that that's ever going to change because I think that we did it for so long. It's like Carson or something like that. Not that Greg is Johnny Carson.
I am. I want to spread that around. We can spread that around. Can we start that?
Yeah,
right
we
now?
can try. Well, we just did, but it'll live on and it'll change and evolve. We did Podcast Beyond Live at PSX, and it was huge. It was awesome. We had standing room only. It was great. But we had one of the founders, Jeremy Dunham, on, and it was funny how we had a segment of the audience that really knew him, and we had a segment of the audience that had no idea who he was, And I was like, well, that, when they do episode 600 of Podcast Beyond, we're going to be that. So we can't take ourselves too seriously in this regard, you know what I mean? The other thing I just want to throw in, because Greg was talking about the money and the financial realities, IGN was very good to us financially too, and this move is not about money, because if it was, we wouldn't have done it.
Oh God,
So we, games journalism and this enthusiast press is very well known to not, pay its talent very well. Fortunately, we were there long enough and respected enough that wasn't a problem for us, really. And we want to be happier, and we want to connect directly to the audience in a way that we think is best. So it has nothing to do with the finances. It has nothing to do with bad blood. It's really about this jump that seemed logical for us.
Yeah.
So now that you guys are doing the kind of funny thing, it's always been a tough question for you, I imagine, in your line of work, as it has been for me. What is your answer now when you are at a family gathering, at some other office party, and someone comes to you and says, so what do you do?
Yeah. I defaulted a while back to saying I'm an internet personality.
Oh, yeah? Are you a YouTuber now, though?
I think so, right?
More so?
I guess so. That's what I'm a Twitcher, I'm a YouTuber, I'm a Patreon, I'm a .com owner, I'm a CEO.
Your Twitcher makes it sound like you're coming off meth.
I am.
Right.
That was another thing we had to kick. Not enough money to keep that habit going. No, yeah. Internet personality is what I default to now. And then if they ask more, I say I host shows on the internet. And if they say what is, and then I'm out of the cab by then.
Did you expect that this would be something like you guys have been in the industry for a long, long time?
Yeah.
Did you ever think that this was likely to be something you'd be doing in your 30s?
No, I mean, I haven't actually posted it yet, but I wrote a really long letter to everyone that I want to post when our website's kind of ready to receive it. Basically saying that I wrote at GameFAQs as a teenager for fun. I just like writing. I always say I love video games. My biggest love is history, actually, and politics. And I always assumed that I was going to go in that direction, and I did. I had my tattoos, and I went to Northeastern for American history, and I was about to start, getting to grad school and do all those kinds of things when they offered me my job.
At no taxation?
At no taxation, yeah. It's very subtle. So it's one of those things where you look back and you're like, I remember being 18, 19, 20, getting my little freelance checks and being so excited.
Yeah.
And I remember being really comfortable just being a freelancer when I was 22 and I got hired, where I'm like, I didn't expect, I still say that as far as I understand it for editorial, I'm the only person at IGN where, as far as I know, that was offered their job, that they didn't really interview anyone or anything. They were just like, you want to come, it's serendipitous that you graduated because someone is leaving. I'm so thankful for that, but I didn't expect it. And I certainly, I didn't even, this is a sad story, but Greg knows this, but like when I moved to San Francisco from Boston when I went to school, I didn't even unpack my bags for like a year because I just kind of lived out of like I was in a dorm room where I was like, I eventually have to move, like the other shoe's going to drop, and eventually they're going to send me back to Long Island, and I'm going to have to live with my dad, and maybe go home in disgrace. And it never happened. And so eventually I got comfortable, and before you knew it, we were kind of old now, and
should have called it kind of old.
Yeah, well, we will.
We will soon enough, I'm sure.
We'll launch a new Patreon
Nick's
for
probably
that.
copywriting right now. Yeah, I didn't see it coming. Like it was never, the story for me always goes that, I, since the 4th grade, wanted to write about video games. And that's why I went into journalism. That's why I did all these different things. And I remember early on in my IGN career, within the first month, one of our satellite editors came to visit, and we all went out to dinner with him, me and a couple friends. And he's sitting there eating, and he goes, so, like, what's everybody's plan? Like, where do you hope? IGN's not going to be the end of the road for you guys. And like the other 3 guys at the table were like, awkward silence. Like, well, it is for him. And I was like, this is all I've ever wanted to do. This is how it works. You know what I mean? This is what I wanted to do, and I got it at 23. You know what I mean? And I was there that entire time.
You never want, because a lot of things, either development or community management or PR or something.
Well, that wasn't exist. Yeah, I didn't know anything about it. The community management. That stuff wasn't even coming, and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
So I expected to be there forever and move up the chain, and I moved up the chain. And then you get to that point where it's like, well, what's next? And the reason I was able to stay at IGN so long, you see a lot of editors come and go, is just the fact that IGN let me grow in so many different directions, right? Like I always say that if I was still a PlayStation editor, which is what I got hired as, I would have quit a long time ago, right? Yeah. But I started there, and then I was running the PSP channel, and then I got to be in charge of the PlayStation team, and then Up at Noon came along, 3 years ago, changed my life, obviously. This is all because of that opportunity to come out there. Sorry, IGN, turned out to be a bad decision on your part in the end. But I was able to branch off and do those different things. And it's funny, I always trace it back and talk about when I started at IGN, there is a distinctive video filmed by Ty Root where he walks around and interviews me about playing a video game, and then Dave Clayman, who's playing Pac-Man Championship Edition. And at the end of it, he turns the camera and walks away, and he passes Pear, and Pear goes, "Oh, putting editors on camera, what a great idea." Wow. And it was one of those things, I'd gotten hired, 6 months after Damon Hatfield, and then 6 months before, or a few months before Colin. And we were really the first generation that came in and were like, we grew up on this is all we want to do. And they're like, all right, we should start putting people on camera. And all the old guys were like, no way. I'm way too burned out and old for that. I like what I do. Yeah. We're like, we don't care, let's do it. And like, I'm taking off my shirt.
Way too burned out and old for that.
Yeah. It's true, right?
That's just a funny way to put it.
And now all you do essentially is stand in front of camera.
Exactly. Oh yeah, I just yell at cameras now. It's great. It's way easier than writing and reviewing.
Well, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us. We wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's going to be an interesting year for you dudes. Stick around. We're going to talk about a bunch more stuff over the next 40 minutes as well.
Oh, nice.
All right. We will be back in a second, folks. We're talking about The Division. I had an interesting chat with some folks over the break about the Ubisoft formula, so we're going to sort of chew out whether that's going to impact positively or negatively on The Division coming out this year. But first of all, a trailer for Assassin's Creed. It apparently has some sort of, what was it called?
The guillotine gun?
Guillotine gun. Let's check it out.
Egads.
France's wounds may be healing, but mine only fester. I can hide here and forget. Is this who we killed for? Or was it all for someone else? A game? Fate brought me here for a reason. Perhaps it's time I let go of the past.
Make history. Assassin's Creed Unity.
The Division is coming out this year. Fingers crossed, we don't get no more slips. And Ubisoft brought out a bunch of games last year. Some of them were pretty great.
Yeah.
Some of them maybe a little bit, mediocre. What was your favorite sort of game out of stuff like Assassin's Creed, Far Cry,
Valiant Hearts.
Valiant Hearts?
Dogs.
Yeah, Valiant Hearts and Shadow of the Light, I think, were the highlights for them last year. But out of that more AAA group, I think Far Cry was the show.
Yeah, Far Cry for sure.
Have you guys noticed that they have this sort of last year? There's a lot of sort of conversation about. I daren't say homogeny, but there's definitely some like mechanics that keep repeating across that
Sure.
their games. Be it like the climbing on top of a tower to
Sync your points.
Sync your points.
Yeah.
Literally, that's in Watch Dogs.
Yep.
It was in Far Cry. It was in both Assassin's Creed games as well. Massive influence on co-op as well, especially in like The Crew. Again, was another game that was like I've been happy playing it single player, but it was like super co-op focused.
Sure.
Have you guys noticed that across like all of their games? How do you feel about this sort of the fact that they have this one, I guess, this set of rules that they're applying to all the different franchises? Do you think some have benefited and some have like been hindered?
Sure. I mean,
from
the
it?
big one for me that's alarming is the co-op trend.
Yeah.
After E3, right, and everybody showed their next gen games or whatever, I was like, okay, so this generation is going to be defined by playing with other people. Great. And then everything comes out broken, and the servers are down on Christmas, and it's like, oh my god, you know what I mean? Like, and like you're talking about the Division, and I'm talking about Evolve, and I'm talking about all these games that are coming up, and it's like, crap. Like, this is terrifying. This is what it's gonna
I
be.
mean, I remember when we talked about, the Division is so intriguing to me. It's set in New York, which is awesome. It's very post-apocalyptic. I love the dystopian kind of stuff. I mean, that's great. But my biggest question when we heard about the game was like, can I play it by myself?
Yeah.
And they eventually said yes. But of course, you feel like you're getting less of an experience when these games seem to be designed around a cooperative experience, which I'm notorious. Like, I don't want to play online. Like, I want to play by myself at my own pace. These are the kinds of games where I just want to take my time, and you can't do that with people chattering in your ears and someone blowing your cover or something like that. So, I agree that there is a homogeny between a lot of the Ubisoft games in terms of formula, which I'm sure is intentional. People seem to like it. So,
Did you guys? Sorry, go on.
No, I mean, the thing with the Division that's interesting that sort of distinguishes it from the Far Cry co-op, the Assassin's Creed Unity co-op, maybe not so much the Crew co-op, but like, it seems like the co-op here is also dependent on other groups of cooperative players coming into your universe, because that was the big reveal at the end of the trailer they first showed off at E3 a couple years ago was, oh, we're fighting our way through here, but then there's this other team here, there's this other team here, and those are not NPCs. They're people who are talking. They're people that populate this world. That makes it more dangerous. That makes it more exciting. And I think that just like doubles down on that risk reward of online connectivity all the time, co-op all the time.
Yeah.
See, the thing about like Assassin's Creed, for instance, was like that's a sort of a single-player game that they have allowed a co-op piece of, and that you could say is largely the same for Far Cry 4 as well. Like you can just play that game on your own.
Exactly.
or
Far
they
Cry
stick
4
it
is
in.
like, just say, there's another guy here.
Yeah, here's
go
the
do
dude.
stuff.
Yeah.
You can't do any of the main stuff. Just go take down outposts. Like, all right.
But then The Crew was a game that was trying to like made co-op such an integral part of it that over Christmas I couldn't play it because it was an online game, even though I never do any co-op with that whatsoever. My worry, I guess, is that with The Division, it being a sort of a co-op like centric game, that perhaps like do you ever worry that like a really good, when they put all that time and effort into like ham-fisting this co-op experience into a game, that perhaps that would have been time spent making like a really good single-player experience? Like, I'm probably like you, like I love playing games like Fallout for 400 hours.
and that's my big fear, man, with Fallout. I mean, we were just talking about that. Was Fallout 4? One of my predictions.
Colin's prediction is like,
one of my
Fallout 4's
predictions
coming this year. Announced at E3, comes out this year, and I'm like, and when do we get the beta for multiplayer? He's like,
Yeah, I mean, I think one of my on our new games podcast, one of the things I said was I think Fallout 4 gets announced in the next couple months. I think that Fallout 4 they'll have a hands-on event. They'll show something at E3, and then we're going to release it this year. Like, I really believe that. I think that they're like sitting on it, and there's no reason to prolong the agony for people. They kind of.
I thought it was going to be announced at 2 events this year.
Yeah.
Like, I was sure possibly E3, and I guess the Gamescom is a bit of a weird one, but the VGX Awards, because they'd done it before.
Right.
They announced,
Yeah.
I think it was Skyrim was announced when it was on Spike.
Right.
This is like a game that we're sort of, there are little hushes about it, like it's definitely in development.
Yeah, and my big fear with that game, like I love Fallout 3 and I love New Vegas. I think those are both fantastic games. And I'm so afraid that like you're not gonna be able to play them the way that they're designed to be played. The great thing about that game is like I don't know what I'm gonna do, and I'm just gonna walk in
Wander
this
off,
direction,
yeah.
and then some like guy is gonna run by and like shoot you, or you're gonna have to be with some friend shattering. I don't know. It's just like there is something. There's the sanctity of the single player experience is waning, and that's like really a bummer to me.
I feel like there will be games that won't do it, and I really think Fallout won't. Because it's what
hope
you're
not.
talking about. They understand if somebody walks by and like teabags a rad roach and runs off.
There were 2 separate Fallout Onlines in development at one stage as well. Like I think Bethesda had one, and then who was it? Interplay, I think, owned the license in the first place. They were also, and there was a bunch of like legal battles over the course of like 2 years for that. So they've been trying
it's
to
not
make
crazy,
right? But the point,
but not in the main game.
But the point is that that's a separate product that is more online or MMO focused. I mean, they did the same thing with Elder Scrolls, and you hope that Elder Scrolls 6 is what we want it to be, and that they're also going to have the Elder Scrolls Online, which is its own thing to kind of please both people. Hopefully that formula works. I don't know how successful Elder Scrolls Online has been.
I guess the question is kind of, is it a zero-sum game? As the ascendance of all these co-op games, these online-only games, these games that are meant to be played pretty much with people.
Yeah.
Does that take a piece of the development pie from these massive single-player experiences, or does it just grow and continue to grow and broaden? Does one take away from the other?
I don't think, we always talk about this, right? There's always different teams, it seems like, right? There's your multiplayer team and your single-player team. So I don't know how much it's taking away the development as much as it's taking away the money. You know what I mean? There are budgets in a reality with a business that is gaming. And so to have a second team, it could have been money that was funded over here to make this work and make it go.
One of my worries is that because this is something we've seen across like so many Ubisoft games, and like this is a studio that's spread across the world, that like perhaps this was something that was said from the high ups 2 years ago, and that their entire model has been based around trying to then hiring people who are like involved in that type of coding or involved in that type of design. Like we're talking about Fallout. Like for me, The Division looks like a really interesting, like modern Fallout almost. You're like wandering around this world, like, finding survivors, like running into like individuals and bandits and whatnot. I really want to play that game on my own, and like something terrifying about like you just being forced into doing it. Because the funny thing about co-op is that like often games that like maybe are quite boring are fun in co-op. Like I spent most of, well maybe that doesn't count, but I spent most of Christmas playing UFC on the PS4 with my brother drunk, because every game is fun when you're playing with a buddy. Like Borderlands, the game I feel.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Like, I never played Borderlands on my own.
I mean, the current example, right, is Destiny.
Yeah.
Like, like in the beginning, Destiny comes out and everybody's like, "Oh, this story sucks." And now you look at these people hooked on it, and no one's listening to what you're saying on what the game's saying on the raid, right? It's like, shoot that, do that, all right, go to and then you just BS around with your friends while you run around, and like that's great, that works. That Borderlands, that works. That's why I love it, and that's why I wasn't interested originally in Tales from the Borderlands. It came out, and it's like a story based around Borderlands. I'm like, I know Handsome Jack's a bad guy. Like, I don't know the story of it. But then when you play it, it's like, oh, this is amazing. This is a really funny story. It doesn't need me to know Borderlands, thank goodness, because I don't know, because I run around and play with my friends.
So I guess we're going to have to wait and see if The Division is something you're going to be forced to have to play. I'm so worried it's going to be like The Crew, but with third-person shooting.
Yeah, I'm worried about it too, because I think it looks, like you said, I think it looks so promising. It sounds so awesome. So hopefully we can play it by ourselves.
Excellent. Well, that's one of the biggest games coming out in 2015. We're going to be back in a moment talking about some of those other games. But first of all, we have a trailer for... Oh man, Smite. A new cinematic trailer for Smite. Let's check it out. They got $2 million. Oh my god. We're back here on the lobby, and so are video games. It's January 2015. There's some video games coming out this year. Did you know that? We're going to talk about some of the best ones that are coming out, or what we think will be the best ones.
That was a great transition.
Was it really good? Is that all right?
We're back, and so are video games.
Video games are back. I hope.
After a brief hiatus.
They're back in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not quite yet.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, next week, H1Z1. That's the first start.
that what
That's the start of the big ones.
Does that not come out yet?
No.
Wow. I thought Splatoon was coming out. I was spending like all the yesterday saying, don't worry guys, Splatoon's out in January. Splatoon's out in like March or something.
I was wondering why you were making all the Splatoon jokes.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
It's because I bought a
Seemed
Wii U
timely.
last month.
It seemed very timely at the time.
I've become that guy now. I got a Wii U and I can't fucking shut up.
Hey,
talking
you
about
guys
video
seen
games.
this Mario Kart? You
Yeah,
hear
yeah,
about
it's
this
really
Mario
good.
Kart coming out?
It's really
Yeah,
good.
it's really good.
It's all your favorite Mario people, but they drive cars now.
Big deal. They put that Zelda in there.
It's got pink gold peach.
Yeah.
She's my favorite. I want to talk to you about the order, sir.
Okay.
We went to the PlayStation Experience.
Yeah. Throw 'em up. Whoa. DX.
Xbox was there.
Yeah.
It was great. So was
He was
China.
Bronco busting Shuhei Yoshida in the corner.
Wouldn't have been surprised. He's now in Super Time Force, so anything's
Right.
possible.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so one of the games that's coming out this year, pretty soon actually, is The Order
February.
1866.
Yeah.
Nope.
Nope.
1886.
1886. Yeah, I should know that. Year I was born, minus 100. I have like real grave concerns about this game. I think it's
Yeah, there's
like
a lot to be concerned about.
it's super, like from what I've played, it's very quick time heavy. Like I think more so than what comes across to people.
Sure.
What do you think about it? Because you're kind of more on the positive side.
I started with like, oh, this game's gonna be like. Colin went and saw it, right? He came back and was like, it does not run well. Do not be excited. I was like, what? Ready Dawn's great, right? So like right there, I'm at rock bottom. I'm at bedrock on my expectations. And then so often it creeps up because somebody comes back and goes like, oh, this happened now. I thought the werewolf fight they showed at E3 was cool, and so then to actually sit down and play it, I had problems. I think the camera's too tight. I couldn't find things like super, like you just like take a left kind of thing. You know,
Yeah.
you're like running. It's like, well, how do I advance? And I'm running around the map trying to find it. And then eventually I saw it. And I was like, oh, okay. It seems like it'll be a cool narrative. You know what I mean? Like I like the setting. I like what they're doing. It's beautiful. Do I think it's going to change or revolutionize gaming in any way? No. You know what I mean? Like. It's goofy. I don't. The QuickTime thing doesn't bog me down in terms of if it's fun to get through. Then that's my big question, right? Is they show these awesome set pieces. You know, you're coming down to Hindenburg pretty much or whatever,
Yeah.
and you get in there, and the stealth kills when they were working were really cool. And then when I was getting discovered, I was like, well, this sucks.
Yeah,
But-
because when you get discovered, it literally shows an animation of you getting hit in the head.
Yeah.
Like there's no even like gameplay happening there. Essentially, it's like
telling you a story
It's
game.
analog. It's
Yeah.
like kill him or don't, and then reset.
it's like it's somewhere between a Telltale game and
Yeah,
then like
kinda.
Gears of War. There's like the break in there.
Yeah.
It's like a Resident Evil 5 steampunk Victorian style.
Yeah, it's a
Man,
weird.
are you trying to sell me on it or not?
Is it? I don't know.
If you're gonna try to
You
sell
saying
someone
this
on a
game
game,
is like
don't-
real racist or something?
Don't say Resident Evil 5. You're trying to sell a game to someone. No, I think I saw the order back in just about a year ago
Yeah.
when they
Oh,
revealed
wow.
it behind closed doors.
Okay.
And I came back and wrote my piece, and I'm like, this game's in, like Greg's saying, I'm like this game's in really bad shape, you know. And because they had revealed it at the E3 before, and then at Gamescom they basically just showed like a tech demo of the game kind of running. And I remember being frustrated because even with my interview, they just showed the trailer the first time, like behind closed doors. I'm like, I already seen this, and then I
Yeah.
had to spend my time being like, is it a third-person shooter or a first-person shooter? And they're like, it's a third-person shooter. I'm like, all right, is it?
It's like a game of Guess Who.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, and they're like, all right, time's up. And I'm like, all right,
Oh,
so like,
really?
yeah, you know, like in other words, they could have just shown the game.
Yeah.
But I think that the order is an interesting kind of case study in the fact that the game was in poor shape when I saw it, and a lot of people were mad at me for saying that. And then they saw it when they released the videos, and they saw that the game was chugging and just didn't seem that good. And then every time we've seen it since then, it's gotten better and better and improved. Like the extra time they got to finish the game, I think is going to pay off. I thought when we played the PSX for like 40 minutes or whatever that it was a lot of fun. I don't think it's going to, like Greg said, I don't think it's a game changer. I don't think this game's going to be like amazing. I just, I'm excited about it. And I think the thing that people need to walk away from it thinking is that the game's incredibly cinematic. Like
Yeah.
I think the production value of the game is super high.
It looks
And
incredible.
It does, and the voice acting is awesome. I think the story is
Yeah.
really interesting. The fusion of, the guys over there are really obsessed with alternate history, which I am too, and I think that the fusion of things that should be in 1886 but really weren't, like a Zeppelin, which doesn't belong there, it makes sense because they've done such a nice job of making that world. And so I think everything surrounding the gameplay is pretty good. Whether or not the game pans out, it remains to be seen.
When does it actually release?
February.
Yeah.
16th, maybe?
Totally forgotten by the end of the year.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
probably.
totally.
Yeah,
no one will
you're
be
right.
talking about it by the end of the year.
one of
The interesting thing our friend Vince over at IGN pointed out on the Beyond at PSX was the fact that his concern is that from what they've shown, there's no rhythm to the gameplay.
Yeah.
Right? You have the part we played where we infiltrate the Zeppelin, sure. Then there's this weird on rails running from the werewolf, you're shooting at him. Then there's the other, and it's just like, what is this game? And is every segment, even though it's cinematic, you get dropped into, is it going to be, you have to get a new tutorial on what you're doing and how you're doing it?
Because every one of them has been that.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We're not too
Is
far
that
away
your
from
main
knowing
concern?
My main concern is the areas in which it looks like there's like open gameplay, like for instance that stealth part.
Yeah.
I think you can show that on a trailer and it looks like one game, but when you're sitting there playing
Sure,
it, it's
that makes
actually a
sense.
totally different one. So I think it's more of a kind of a perception thing. I don't think it's perhaps a bad game, but I wonder if people
It's
will
not
know
what
what
people think
type
it's
of
gonna
game
be.
it is when
Yeah,
it comes
yeah,
out.
that makes sense.
Another game that slipped into 2015, The Witcher. It's out on April 19th. The third game. Have any of you guys played the old ones? Because I cannot wait for this one. And I've never touched The Witcher
I'm the
1 and
same
2.
way.
That's the movie with me.
Yeah,
too.
no, that's the thing is like it takes I don't fantasy is always hard for me to get into this high fantasy stuff. And every trailer they've shown and all the combat they've shown, I'm like, all right, I think I'm gonna get into this one and actually really dig it. Like Skyrim, right?
Yeah.
Those standout games where something different about it jumps in. But yeah, I feel like such a hack saying it. I'm like, can't wait for Witcher 3. And I'm like, I've never played Witcher 1 or 2. I don't know. I mean, and I hear they're really complicated and really dense. But I'm
That's
like,
what's so exciting about
Awesome.
it.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, The Witcher 2 definitely. I played about 60% of it, and
cool.
it got to the point where I just had. You had to put a lot of energy into it to get out, from combat and stuff like that, and sort of to get to the point where I felt proficient. But it's also pretty tough. But that can feed you, that can come back at you, and it hit the point where I was like a little low energy. Something else came along, I went to play it. But what fascinates me and what is so wonderful about The Witcher is the world.
Yeah.
And I didn't play The Witcher 2 because everyone was really raving about it. I wasn't excited to play it because of that. It was because I have a Polish friend who has read all the Witcher books and is always telling me about like how this is like this crazy like half fairy tale, half medieval, half magical, but like totally vulgar and like adult, like whole world. It was just so intriguing to me, and I think the games really replicate that really well. And you go see a dwarf in The Witcher, and it's not like a dwarf in The Lord of the Rings who's like, I'm a hardy under the mountain folk. They are like dropping F-bombs and like down at the whorehouse all day, like just like this. It just busts those sort of genre conventions all over the place, and it makes it feel fresh, even if you're not kind of that normal fantasy aficionado.
Yeah. Two games, I guess, that are coming out in relatively quick succession, in Q1 at least. One we've only seen just recently, Uncharted 4: Thieves' End, hopefully coming out this year.
They say 2015.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, that was one of my predictions. I don't think it actually hits in 2015.
Game Informer had the cover for February.
Yeah.
They put out a little video today on the site as well, sort of explaining that one of the things that came out of PSX, I guess, where people were like, okay, they've learned some lessons from The Last of Us. Perhaps the tone of Uncharted is going to shift in that direction.
Yeah.
It wasn't just you shooting dozens and dozens of people, like, it was trying to like unarm people and whatnot.
That section could have been you shooting dozens and
Yeah,
dozens
exactly.
of
You
people.
could easily
Very
turn it on your AK, and that's the end of that.
Excited for 4? You
Oh
played
my
much of
God,
it?
yes.
Yeah, we're big Uncharted fans here. Uncharted 3 for life, perfect 10. I don't care who says it.
Yeah, I mean, we're both in the Uncharted 3 is better than 2 camp, which is a weird place to
Yeah.
be.
What about
yeah,
Mass Effect 3?
Mass Effect 2 is better.
Mass Effect
Okay.
2 is probably. I mean, they're all.
You're not crazy then.
All right, good. Okay, good. I'm glad we have the
Those are all,
bellwether tests.
both of those trilogies share the same thing, which is that they're both awesome.
Yeah.
Like front to back. And, Drake's a special character, I think. I think that Naughty Dog's clearly a very special studio. I would often say that they've shown that, at least right now, they're the best studio in the world. The Last of Us, I gave a 10 to. Greg gave Uncharted 3 a 10. A lot of people felt similarly, I think, to those games, especially The Last of Us. They have a lot to live up to. The exciting thing about this is that even though Amy's gone, who I think is probably the heart and soul of the series, and these are obviously her characters, Neil and Bruce are very astute game designers, very astute producers of games. They were very responsible for Uncharted 2's success, which people forget. They made Uncharted 2 and then made The Last of Us, while Uncharted 3 guys were working on Uncharted 3 and then Uncharted 4. So I think there's every reason to be excited about it. Greg always says I was elbowing him in his ribs the entire time at PSX.
Are you effing seeing this? He kept saying. Well, that was the other one. But yeah, I mean, the game looks amazing.
Yeah,
Right?
it's
And what I
awesome.
keep talking about is the fact that as a huge Uncharted fan, I'm sure they're going to figure out a better way to say it, but because it looks like nonstop action. It looks like no animation's safe.
Yeah.
Because in the old days, right, you'd grab somebody, throw them over the cliff, and then you'd watch them fall. Whereas this, when you grab the guy, throw him, and then he grabs onto your leg, you got to fight him off. And like, oh, I'm going to choke this guy. He pulls out his gun, and now you're frantically trying to get away. It's like, there's not even those little moments of rest. They want everything to be going and action-oriented.
The series I want Uncharted to learn from is not The Last of Us, though. I want it to learn from Tomb Raider,
Yeah.
the most recent one.
Yeah.
That I think the way that did exploration and the way that it felt like I was in this wild place, like trying to figure it out.
Right.
Like Uncharted, you know, for all its virtues, you're on a path.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'd love to see Nathan Drake trying to, like, you're trying to figure it out. You're in a bigger space. You got a little more freedom. There's a little bit more to do than just, like, go to the place.
Go to the place and then look for shinies.
And also the way,
Where those
also the
treasures.
way that death is handled in Tomb Raider. Like when you like die environmentally in that, it is brutal.
Yeah,
and
tree limbs through your mouth.
Oh my god!
Damn.
And then you just like, and then you watch.
Yeah.
It doesn't cut away when the tree limb goes through your mouth. You're sitting there like,
exactly.
I kind of want, you know, if they take a grittier tone,
Yeah.
like you're saying from The Last of Us, I'd like to see that, come from Tomb Raider as well.
Yeah, I hope that we were talking about this not too long ago in the sense that I hope that they don't take the tone, obviously, from The Last of Us. I mean, I think a lot of people are scared of that. I like the pulpy, like, kind of, like, ridiculousness of Uncharted, and those characters are very funny. There's a comedic undertone to these games that I think is a little understated. My personal opinion is that I hope they kind of don't change the formula. Like, no weapon upgrades, no non-linearity. No, like, it's just supposed to be an action movie. It is what it is.
RPG elements mixed in.
Exactly. Like, I don't, no crafting, like, none of that. Just, like...
No co-op?
I feel like it's inevitable.
Well, I mean, they did it in the multiplayer mode before.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
I mean, they're
That's
going to have
fine.
that multiplayer
That's
mode.
fine, and it's there. But I wonder,
Who better than his brother?
Yeah,
to go up with?
Yeah, exactly. Jesus Christ, you're scaring me now. But yeah, I think there's every reason to be optimistic about the game. I think that there's reasons to be pessimistic that it comes out this year. But hopefully they make it, because I mean, the beauty is that Sony owns all of these studios. Most of them are not. None of them are dormant. It's just that we don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so that is supposed to be the fall slated game. So you hope that they don't run into a similar problem that they did last year, where The Order was supposed to be their fall flagship, and they had to get pushed. And then Drive Club was the game that no one really was interested in to begin with, or a lot of people weren't. And then
They
it was broken.
certainly weren't when it came out.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's a lot unknown around that window.
One of the great things about Uncharted was that they showed us this massive chunk of gameplay. A game that's coming out this year from Remedy. I feel like Quantum Break is a game we actually haven't seen a lot of, even though they've shown like snippets. I think Gamescom was the first time we got to see it in action. Are you looking forward to it? I love Max Payne, but
Exactly.
and I love Alan Wake.
Yeah.
But I haven't connected to this one yet.
See, they're a studio that knows what they're doing, and they're almost on that list of people, like, you just say Remedy, I'm like, okay, cool. I can't wait to see what you do. And, like, sure, I'd love to see more gameplay, but the trailers are awesome with, like, the pieces of glass spinning around. Here you actually see the gameplay part of it. I believe in Remedy. I believe, like, I'd love to see more, but then in the same breath, maybe I don't, because I believe in them already. What do I care?
Yeah.
Just get it out. You know, how many games are ruined by trailer after trailer after trailer, and you just get it, like, well, I remember this part, and I remember this part. Like, okay, let's see. What I'm more fascinated with is how the TV aspect plays into it.
Yes.
Right?
Does it still as well? Because when Matrick was in charge, that was the drum they were banging on. Like, it's clearly not the case anymore.
Well, they've dialed it back, but I mean, they've clarified, I think, is the big thing, saying that the episodes are on the disc, right? Like, I think for most of us were thinking we'd have to play in sync with it when it was coming out, because they were pushing Xbox One entertainment and stuff like that. Now they're like, it's all there, it's there, you do your thing, and then you see it from that perspective. It's like, okay, that sounds neat.
Yeah.
But it just sounds also like a cutscene.
My worry, I hope that that's something that they actually are interested in doing themselves, and it wasn't just a proviso that Microsoft were saying.
Yeah.
You know, like the sort of Ubisoft co-op stuff. Excited, looking forward to it at all?
Yeah, I think Quantum Break looks awesome. I think it's, with Alan Wake's mystique late in the Xbox 360's life cycle, I think people are really interested in what these guys are going to do next. I agree with Greg that the talent at that studio is really, really high. So I think that game's going to be really promising. And I'm just more interested in there being more, I like that there are more Xbox One exclusives generally, as opposed to 360, where they had their flagships and very little else. It was the difference, I think, maker between the way Xbox was perceived and the way PlayStation is perceived, where they have Halo and Gears, which are bigger than everything, but then Sony's like, well, we have smaller games that are out every month. And so it seems like Xbox is actually announcing more exclusives, which I think is actually exciting generally, beyond just Quantum Break.
Yeah. And there's loads of games coming out in 2015, but the last one I want to talk about today, Chris, you're intimately familiar with. February, at some stage, we're going to see Evolve.
Oh, yeah.
Finally.
Yeah, beta on Xbox One, like, next weekend?
Oh, really?
2 weekends, I think. Anyways, I'm super into that game. We've had a chance to play it in the office a couple times, and there's like the lingering question. Like, I think no doubt you play a match, you can see, or you watch a match at PAX on the big screen, you see how this game can create just incredibly exciting, tense things where, you get 4 people bonding together, or like the sheer joy of tearing everyone up as a monster. It's the longevity question, which is going to be really interesting because they have an unlock progression. You know, you're going to have to unlock all the different hunters, all the different monsters as you play. And they've talked only lately about some different modes. But what do you guys think? I mean, have you gotten a chance to play Evolve at all?
I haven't, because fundamentally, like we were talking about, Evolve, like the very premise of Evolve to me is like, I don't want to do this.
Did you play Left 4 Dead?
A little bit, but again, it's like I would rather just put it in a game and just play it by myself.
Did you
What if you're the
solo Left 4
monster
Dead?
here? Because it's basically you're playing this multiplayer game that's a co-op game, but you don't have to cooperate with anybody. You don't have to hear anybody talk. It might as well just be NPCs for all the interaction
That's
you're
true.
having with them.
That's a great point. It's just like when people, because people are at IGN were really banging the drum on this one as well,
Yeah.
and they're really into it. And just knowing the premise of it, I was just like, it's just, I'd rather play Shovel Knight or something. So it's like
I play a lot of it, and it's one of those games that I play, and I'm in the moment, and I'm having so much fun with it. I'm like, I love being the monster. This is great, blah, blah, blah. And then I stop, and I come back to wherever, tell somebody I like it a lot, and then weeks go by, and I find myself not saying, God, I can't wait to play more Evolve. But then I get to an event and I do play Evolve and I'm like, this is great. So like longevity is the big thing for me too, is in terms of, is it going to be something where it's like Mario Kart where I have one amazing weekend with it and then just like kind of forget about it? Or is it going to be that I want to get back in and level up and do this? I don't have an answer.
And also, how much of that is the game design itself sort of reinforcing that, bringing you back, giving you new stuff to discover? And how much of it is the time in your life when it comes out and like what your gaming appetites are and who's available, who else among your friends gets it? Like, I feel like that's the other thing with these cooperative games is even if you are into them, even if you are, let's all get together, like I'd love to play that, there's so many other factors in terms of your own circumstance that can conspire to maybe make that just not be the best it can be.
I think them putting it out in February, like as early as possible, is really good. It reminds me of Burnout Paradise, which is a game where everyone was playing, and people who don't play driving games were playing because it came out in January when there was nothing else to play, and everyone was like, it was like an event almost. So perhaps the same will be true of Evolve. Some great games coming out in 2015. Thanks very much for coming on and talk to us about that and much more. I guess there will be reviews of all those games and more on GameSpot.com. Are you guys going to be reviewing games still?
Nope. We're not reviewing. We're talking about. We're celebrating games. We're
Giving your opinion.
Exactly. We're playing, and we keep saying that we're navigating these waters with our viewers. You know what I mean? We'll play and stream for you. We'll go to events, come back and talk about what we said. But Colin and I have been in the review game a long time, and we're kind of done putting numbers on games. We'd rather sit there and tell you what we think about what we've done, and then you interpret however.
Yeah, we're never going to do letters. Like what?
One Up did it.
It worked out great for them, right?
Yeah, I mean, we
Rest in peace.
just don't. I mean, I appreciate that people want that kind of review product. That review product will be done more often and better at places like GameSpot and IGN. We don't really believe in review scores, and we don't want to do that kind of thing. But I think we're just going to have one-off conversations about games.
Exactly.
We'll see what happens. I mean, truth be told, we really have a lot to figure out. So I think
We're done.
Elaborate pictograms. That's what I'll put that out there.
that's the future.
Yeah.
Well, if you have any ideas of games we didn't mention today that you'd like to, by all means, put them in the comments. That is it for the lobby this week. Thank you very much for hanging out. Thank you guys for coming on, and best of luck
Thank you
over
so
the
much.
next year. It's going to be super interesting.
I appreciate it. You gotta come in.
Air 5. Can I come over? Can I come over to the sunset and hang out?
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome anytime.
You got plenty
I'll wear
of
this
choices
shirt.
now. Oh, good.
I wear it all the time.
All right.
It's only a shirt I own.
Is that your 2015 shirt?
That's my 2015
Wow,
shirt.
the
Tim,
shirt.
Tim
Shirt
Schafer,
of
if
the
you're
year.
watching, this is the new one. This is the new one. But we'll be back next week. 2 p.m. Pacific, right here on GameSpot.com. We'll see you then. Adios!